Well, I'm not sure what I was expecting, but it sure wasn't this. After experiencing the original Devil May Cry, I never thought this would be the direction they would take the series. Of course, I had heard about this game before. On YouTube alone, I have seen a couple of videos about how bad it was, so I kinda knew what to expect, but playing something and hearing about it are two different things. I have a lot to talk about with this one, so let's get right into it.
Devil May Cry 2.
This, my friends, is Devil May Cry 2, a game that seems to be highly confused on what made the first one so enjoyable. Apparently, using surveys to make game changes is not a great idea after all, huh? The first thing I noticed when booting the game is that Devil May Cry 2 is divided into two characters, Dante and Lucia. Not really sure what's going on with that, but we'll find out later, I guess. Starting up with Dante, I noticed he seemed different, and throughout the campaign I noticed he barely spoke, and that his personality, or lack thereof I might say, was different. It was just so weird to see Dante be so robotic in his dialogue, and honestly, the little quaint thing was pissing me off so much. But let me explain. Someone decided Dante would use a coin to decide things on this game, and I just wasn't getting it at all. The tiny story significance was not really worth it for me, as it felt so bizarre to see it. Anyway, I should probably get into the plot. Let's see, Dante and Lucia meet at a museum because they both want the same artifact. Lucia throws a dagger at a map and Dante meets her there. I had to double check this because honestly I thought I was forgetting something. I really didn't get how the story started, but whatever. Once in the right place, Dante meets Lucia's mom, and she tells him that she once fought with his father Sparta to defend the island against demons. She asks Dante to help defeat Arius, which, I kid you not on this one, is an international businessman that uses demonic powers and wants to control the world by collecting these artifacts and releasing Argasax, which is some sort of demon king. Boy, this is starting to sound a lot like another game I've reviewed before. For now, let's leave it at that and let's get into the game itself. The environments this time around are far less detailed than on Devil May Cry, but in return, they are much bigger in size. I don't like this as there is not much to see on these places and the space is completely just for show. Also, it makes you walk quite a lot more because, again, places are much bigger. They also don't feel connected in any way, which was something that I really enjoyed in the first game. Sometimes they also get a bit confusing because they're so big, which was something I really liked about the first one, how it was always very easy to find out where you were supposed to go. So even though it was very linear, so it had an advantage, it was still better designed, so it was easier to find where you were going. And that's completely lost on this one. On the other hand, the character movement is significantly improved for the most part. Dante can dodge extremely well and even wall run. It was surprisingly a lot of fun to goof around with this new movement, but not to platform I might add. Even being able to change pistols on the fly is a nice addition, and too bad they are that ultimate weapon here. Devil May Cry 2 is weirdly easy and at times mind-numbing and plainly badly designed. There is nothing that can't be melted with your standard pistols, especially if you pair it with Devil Trigger. It gets to the point where all I had to do was stand still and hold the shoot button. By the time I unlocked hard mode, I wasn't too keen to go back to the game. Lucia's campaign is very similar to Dante's and she is even more mind-numbingly easy. I do like that enemies now have a lock-on symbol and a health bar. The sword combat feels just wrong. I'm not really sure if it's true, but I always felt like the game had a considerable delay between my input and the slash. It's also hard to do cool stuff, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't necessarily easy on Devil May Cry, but the sequel makes it seem like you're hitting a rock with another rock, and it just so happens a bunch of people are looking at you with no context and silently judging you. Of course, eventually you notice and you get embarrassed, but you're already halfway through, so whatever, you keep doing it, you might as well finish, right? My point is that you don't really look cool doing it, and you hardly ever look cool in the combat system at all. The worst part is that the game pretends that you do. You can do the exact same move over and over again and get an S rank on the first combat, and then skip every other encounter on a level and get an S rank on the mission, especially because ignoring all enemies makes it so much easier to get an S rank on time and damage too. I actually got an S on a mission completely by accident because of this. The game also dumbed down the puzzle elements so hard I only understood how I completed one of them the second time around, but I still did it without knowing how. The cutscenes feel so nonsensical and disconnected, I can't even describe it, to be honest. There's just something off about them, some sort of dreamlike effect that I can't quite describe. Take for instance the ending of chapter 4. You find a motorcycle and use it to jump a gap. End of chapter. Cut to mission 5's beginning, and the motorcycle is nowhere to be seen. It's just absolutely vanished. But my absolute favorite example of the weirdness of the game is on mission 16. Before the boss fight, and even before the cutscene, the camera just goes insane for absolutely no reason. The first time got me so off guard, I thought the game was having a seizure. But let's rewind a bit to mission 5, as this one is special to say the least. Come take a trip with me, from the beginning of the mission until the end of it. As I mentioned before, you show up with no motorcycle even though you had one at the end of the last mission. Take a couple of steps on this road and 2 wolves spawn out of nowhere. Once defeated, a cutscene plays where they turn into spirits or something and fly off next to this wild hunt looking dude. What happened? Who is this mysterious skeleton person? I sure as fuck don't know. Even the Devil May Cry fan page barely has information on this dude. I guess it will always remain a mystery why they are even attacking you, let alone who Skeletor and the boys are. After this, you do some combat on the streets of this random city and get confused with where you came from, because the camera angles are just as disorienting as always. You fight some random foes and then this beauty happens. Why am I fighting an infected tank? Who knows, but at least it's an intellectually stimulating fight. Well, I lied, it's the exact opposite actually. Most fights aren't particularly challenging, but this one is in a whole new level of boring. After the amazing combat and getting lost for a bit, something even worse than the infected tank shows up. The infected... for fuck's sake. The infected chopper. This one is technically a boss fight, I think at least. It is so boring and drags on for so long, I had time to contemplate what I was doing with my life. So, first part, stand in place if you want, lock onto the chopper, and fire away occasionally, dodging a rocket or two. You can't see the chopper, but it doesn't really matter. Then, you go inside of a building and the chopper attacks you there. You're supposed to climb as fast as possible or else the chopper kills you, but I wasn't being able to climb it properly, so I found a place where it couldn't hit me and fired away until it was gone. After getting out of the building, the chopper comes back, fought it for a bit, triggered a cutscene, and fought it once more. This time I thought it was done with it, but I was wrong. I think you were supposed to run away and climb this really tall building, but since I decided to stand and fight, it left me with an extremely awkward and boring climb. Finally reaching the top of this building, the true boss fight begins, which is the exact same thing as before. Lock on and keep shooting, and once in a while dodge a missile or two. This mission took me 31 minutes to complete, and the boss fight was over in about 2. This is one of the boringest end bosses I've ever seen. I have to admit though, despite all the annoyance and flawed design, I couldn't help but laugh when this happened in the end of the fight. This mission truly has it all. Uninteresting enemies, boring combat, terrible boss that is easily exploitable, frustrating platforming, and camera that doesn't always work, confusing cutscenes, and absolutely no explanation on why we were doing anything we do. I truly believe this is the poster child of all the game's problems. I won't go into extreme detail of any more levels, but I do want to add something about Mission 9 and 11 in particular. Mission 9 was so confusing, and for a while I couldn't find or hit the stupid orb things I needed to hit. I'm still not sure why I couldn't. Also, who would have thought Dante was flame resistant? A huge shout out to the YouTube channel Devil Hunter XYZ. Man, without their videos, I would have been stuck here forever. I guess maybe that's what my hell would be. And then there's Mission 11, or as I like to call it, the nightmare of platforming. I'm just going to quote my 2 notes on this one. Fuck Mission 11 and starting to get frustrated. On a better note, the Devil Trigger actually got some good improvements this time around. Throughout the game, there are these stones that you can collect that serve as modifiers to DT. These I really liked, and I hope they come back. It's not really necessary and they are barely used in Traversal, but I like the idea nonetheless. The voice acting is so weird also, and bad that the one-liners are so cheesy that it gives the game a certain comedic tone that was one of the few things that helped me finish it. There's just something so funny about how goofy all of this story is, and how serious all the characters take it. Before we start talking about Lucia's campaign, let's finish Dante's. So honestly, I had to keep referring to my footage through the entirety of the script writing, because I kept feeling like I was missing something, and every time I was proven wrong. I guess the game just doesn't explain itself well enough, and the ending is no exception. So Dante goes to rescue Lucia, who is kidnapped by Arius. You know, the international businessman slash sorcerer that wants to collect some mystical artifacts to summon Argasax. You remember him from before, right? It turns out Dante switched the coin artifact with his own coin, so the ritual failed, but it actually doesn't, maybe? I'm not sure. I mean, a portal still opens and you still fight Argasax, so I'm not sure about the success of it. After you beat Argasax, Dante rides a motorcycle deeper into hell. I guess he kept the motorcycle from earlier in his pocket or something.
Yeah, let's go all the way to hell.
And that's it for Dante's ending. Nothing else is said or done, but hey, we still have Lucia's side of the story, right? Yeah, I'm sure it will make everything make more sense. So, starting Lucia's story, you see the exact same intro and show up in the exact same place as Dante, except now it's backwards. I found it really weird that they start you off somewhere with absolutely no enemies, where all you can do is go around collecting red orbs to open a door. Most of Lucia's missions are just repeats of Dante's. Some aren't, but they might actually suck worse than his. There's even a water level which has a camera improvement over Devil May Cry. I mean, it's no longer a disorienting first-person mess, but now there's a goddamn boss fight on it. I'll leave that for later. That alone makes it a lot worse than its predecessor. Plus, the level is extremely slow and boring. The main difference with her is that she is actually even more powerful than Dante, or at least as much easier levels. Seriously, the levels are quite a bit easier, and they rely a lot more on platforming. Atrocious platforming that drove me insane. Even trying to use the flying ability of Devil Trigger, there was invisible walls that stopped me from fully cheesing it. The depth perception is just as bad, if not worse than Devil May Cry's. So even though the levels were easier and there was less of them, it made for an overall worse experience. And since most of them are reused or just crappy either way, it just sucked any will to replay this game I had to begin with, which wasn't a lot either way. There's not a lot to talk about with her campaign. There's a couple of new cutscenes and she has her own weapons, which just like Dante's all feel the same, so I won't even bother with them. So the ending of this one is the same as with Dante. He throws the coin to decide who goes to the portal, he goes in, Lucia stays behind. Apparently Arius survived the big explosion and comes back possessed or something, and then he turns into an amalgamation between himself and Argasax. Once he's dealt with, Lucia goes to Dante's shop and he's just there, playing with his coin, and then she hears a motorcycle, thinks it's him, and goes outside dropping the coin on the floor. That's it, that's the ending. There's not even many details missing, but the ones there is, it wouldn't make this less of a weak ending. These are the only things that are different between both of their endings. Anyway, the story from both perspectives is extremely weak, and although it's cool to play as a different character, it's not really fun or necessary to play the game all over again for it. After beating both campaigns, you unlock the now staple Bloody Palace. It's an alright addition, but since the combat feels so weak, it's not very fun to play. Oh, did I also mention that the enemies suck so bad this time? Even design-wise, I don't really like them that much. Things like the golem or the infested enemies are so boring and easy to fight against, while anything from the goat type enemies is just plainly unfair and annoying to fight. Something else that was a welcome addition to the franchise that had its debut here is the ability to mission select. I absolutely despise when games don't have this, so I'm very pleased with that. You can also unlock Trish as a playable character, and I just recommend you use the cheat code to do so, as it's not worth beating the game again just to unlock her. She does seem very overpowered, but honestly I was burned out and didn't really feel like playing all over again. It's finally time to discuss all the bosses. This will be very quick since they're all terrible, but they are an important part of the game, so I want to discuss them nonetheless. Let's start with Orang Guerra. Boring, forgettable, and easy as hell. Next one is Jokat Gulm, a absolutely infuriating boss with some big tentacles and poison farts. Oh, and also a force push, so you can't get close and finish him too fast. This one is one of most hated bosses, and you fight him twice. The tentacles die and respawn without doing damage to the creature, so it makes it extremely annoying and slow. I just tanked the damage and got up close to it. Infested tank and chopper can be put together. Mind-numbingly boring fights. The tank just melee it to death. The chopper shoot it to death and dodge occasionally. Nefasturis is super forgettable. Honestly, I had to check my footage to remember what this was. It's boring and easy. Tateo Besu is the before mentioned aquatic boss fight. This one is just terrible, like plainly terrible. The creature is really fast and invisible. Meanwhile, you have limited movement because, you know, you're underwater. It's actually kind of tricky boss because of this handicap, but that doesn't really mean it's not boring and annoying. Furia Taurus was so good of a boss that I'm not really sure if I glitched him or if it was supposed to be like this. I got it stuck doing this move and finished him off in about 2 minutes. Next up, Noctpteran, or something. I don't know what to say about this one. The moth-looking thing dies quickly and easily, but the larvae are really annoying to fight as they burrow into the ground and they try to eat you. Honestly, you might even be better off letting them do it, as pressing every button, no idea what it is, so I just literally pressed every button, will make them explode when you burst out of them. Overall, another bust of a boss. Bulwark is the wild hunt-looking dude with 2 wolves. Since it's 3-on-1 fight, it's obviously a bit chaotic and unfair. I hate it because of this, but it's a mostly harmless fight, except for, you know, being extremely unfair. Tartar Russian and Plutonian are the exact same bosses, and all you have to do is shoot away and avoid the random lasers, nothing much to add. Phantom is a weird one, because it has no explanation or even remark from Dante that would explain or validate its appearance from the first game. For those who didn't watch my Devil May Cry video, go watch it, what the hell are you doing? Phantom is a fight from the game that, thanks to the dialogue, is a highlight for me in the boss department in that game. But here in Devil May Cry 2, it's just the boring fight without anything. I still don't get why it's here, but it's boring and honestly a lazy copy-paste from the previous game. Tris Magia is really easy too. Just keep shooting and you win. It's kind of annoying and it comes out of nowhere, but then again most of them do. I mean, Devil May Cry had a lot of repeated bosses, but at least their repetitiveness made for at least more memorable, even if still not very good bosses. Here, not so much. This is just another one where I struggle to find what to say about it, so I'll leave it at boring. Next up is Arius. So first off, shout out to the hilarity of this guy's performance. It's just cheesy gold.
I will become an all-powerful immortal! What? What's going on?
Is there a problem?
You! Is that the medallia? You switched them?
A false coin for a false god.
This guy just decided to sit on the sideline and summon secretaries to attack you. Honestly, not good, but for the game standards, it's not bad. Then there's Possessed Arius, which is just as simple as the first one, and I don't really have much to say, also meh level. And then we have Argosax Arius, which is a joke of a fight. He slowly comes at you, then he gets too close, you just run to the other side. Keep shooting and repeat until dead. So boring, so badly designed. Now we're finally in the last one, or last ones I guess, which are Argus the Chaos and Despair embodied. Argus the Chaos is just a bunch of other bosses combined into a gross blob with a bunch of heads. Just stay to the corner of each head and they can't really hurt you, just keep shooting as usual. For some reason Griffin, another boss from the first game, is one of the heads of the blob, which is also not explained. He's not even in this game, so I don't get it. The Despair embodied is okay, and that's it. Okay. I'm so glad I'm done. This game has a lot of bosses, but most, if not all, are just terrible. Most of them have easily exploitable ways to beat them, and worst of all, they're just uninteresting. Overall, a disappointment. But that's just a whole game, I guess. I'm not going to lie, I had fun here and there, but it was more at the expense of the game, not because I was enjoying the game. Even the music is forgettable and boring. There was a couple of things I didn't mention, like the orbs and upgrades, because they're largely the same, except for the fact that you don't have any new moves to purchase. You could only upgrade your weapons, which I didn't really notice any difference on, not even in strength wise, so I'm not really sure if they did anything or not. But the red orbs are still currency, blue shards improve your health, you know how it is, and if you don't, check out my Devil May Cry video. So, is Devil May Cry 2 as bad as people say it? Well, it kind of is, but even though it's a pretty big mess, I'm still glad I played it, as it's a part of the franchise's history, and it only made me appreciate how good the first one was. I already know Devil May Cry 3 is better, but I do hope they never drop this low again. Nevertheless, I think DMC2 served as a wake-up call that led to better games down the road. Especially if you own the Trilogy collection and you skip Devil May Cry 2, I actually recommend you try it out. It is frustrating, it is annoying at times, but it's an easy short game that any fan of DMC should try. If nothing else, at least to make everyone appreciate the other games more. Also, if I suffered, so should you. And with that, I am finally done. Now on to Devil May Cry 3. Let's see how much they changed the game from 2 to 3. Anyways, don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. If you watched all the way, I thank you for helping me out with the watch time, and why not check out another one of my videos? These on screen are just for you. Thank you and see you next time.